All right. I think that's good. Okay. Perfect. Hey, folks. Josh Dean, resident director of Current Theater Arts here. And give me a second to make sure we got all this stuff up and going the right way. We'll get to doing our second Going Off Book series. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, a couple of things actually. And I had mentioned that we would do this series kind of all over the theater while we were doing this, so that if you're an active volunteer or you've volunteered relatively soon in the past, that you would not miss out on being in the theater. So today's Going Off Book comes to you live from the shop, our scene shop. We're really, really lucky to have. I don't know that many of you who are closely connected with us at CTA, who've been connected with us for a long time, I don't know how much experience you have with other community theaters, either in the state of Mississippi or abroad, but we're incredibly lucky to have the space that we do have here at CTA. And our scenic shop is one of our biggest assets. At one point this season, it housed 3 shows at one time. And to be quite honest, we're lucky that we have a little bit of a break right now because we're transitioning between a couple of different shows. It's like I mentioned to you during our last Going Off Book that we were having to cancel Summer and Smoke. That would have put a whole lot of on what's going on here in the scene shop. But we thought we would do this today from the scene shop so that you could see some familiar pieces and make it feel like, did you hear that? That was cool. Make it feel like you were here in the building. And actually, I've been sitting at the piano all day because we're working on some YouTube videos for our Frozen junior students so that they can keep up with what we're doing with Frozen while we are in this period of social distancing. Let me go on and say this right now. While you may not agree with some things that are going on around you politically, or you may not, I don't know, feel like this is a big deal or not, it is. This is a huge deal. So there are a couple of things you can do. Please make sure you wash your hands. Don't be in groups of 10 or more. I can tell you that in some Going Off Books in the future, you'll see more than just me. So we're not ever going to do anything that takes us beyond the CDC recommended guidelines or what the coronavirus task force has recommended we do, or our state or city ordinances do. But we sure do miss a lot of you volunteers and our patrons and friends. But we're going to keep everybody safe. And just to know that this is a thing that I think is cool, that we will probably continue in some way after this has calmed down. I was having a conversation with James Stratton, our vice president of productions, yesterday. We're talking about how this is going, and I said to him, I almost kind of like what we've gotten ourselves into because it's forced us to be creative. We're creative people. Do I like that I had rehearsal yesterday for a whole huge chunk of a show that we're really excited about doing in a month or so, or a little over. And I did it in our playhouse by myself. No, I don't like that at all. But I do like that it's forced us to be a little bit creative, and it's something that we'll utilize going forward. So I'm not really super comfortable with this. I think a lot of you who know me know that out there across that threshold there, I'm pretty comfortable, but this is not a thing that I am. But I think it's something that we should get used to. I've had this job for almost 3 years, and I'm really fortunate to have this be my full-time job. And part of doing so, it kind of indirectly makes me the face of who we are as an organization. We've taken the artistic and business vision that I've had for Corinth Theater Arts, and we've put it in motion. We have an excellent group in our board of directors who backs that vision, and we're doing it. And I haven't really put myself out there enough because we're always so busy. We're in rehearsal so much, so this has kind of forced me personally to reprioritize what it is we're doing, and go from there. So look forward to communicating with you and being in this platform that I'm not super comfortable with, but can learn to be more comfortable with as we go on. So there are a couple things that I want to do in today's Going Off book, and let me tell you about that name. If you have ever worked with me ever before, where I've been the actor and someone else has been the director, or even in the case of our cast of the Rocky Horror Show in October of 2019, I was both actor and director. I'm the worst about going off book. I just am. As an actor, like, I want to take that script and put it right here in my back pocket, even when the director's like, no, please, no more scripts. And I'm like, oh, you have to learn all your lines before you show up. That script is something that we keep tight and we keep close. And this period of time is a lot like that. It's a lot like getting off script, going off book. Emily did this really nice job of helping me brand this series for us. And I think it's something that we're going to continue even after the Rona takes a flattened curve at some point, hopefully very soon. So if you're watching this live, it's great. There is a chat window right there, over there, in this way. I feel like Vanna White doing that. So if you want to ask questions, you can. But if not, don't worry about it. Hopefully, as we build this up, it's a thing that you can do. I did receive some feedback from you folks, randomly, some random folks, about our first Going Off book and about our reading of The Giving Tree. I had someone say, why did you do that? Me personally, like I said, Shel Silverstein is my favorite author. Where the Sidewalk Ends is maybe my favorite book of anything outside of things written by Neil Gaiman. But it's very appropriate for the situation we're in now, and The Giving Tree is actually my favorite piece of work of anything that I could just sit down and read in less than 5 minutes. That's why I wanted to share it with you. I'm really doing some thinking about how we go forward with this. So even in times where we're 100% normal, we're working 8 days a week instead of 7. I think this is something that we're going to continue to do. So I'm looking at some things to read and some suggestions that from you, if you have them, that we'll do in the future. We'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do with our YouTube channel coming up in just a minute. So we'll do that. I'm long-winded always, so I'll get to the point. First of all, if you ever have worked in this scene shop ever, and whether it was the summer or the winter, one of our best absolute longtime volunteers, Roger Bry, would drink coffee, probably the blackest, darkest, grossest coffee on earth, while he was sawing stuff, sawdust flying everywhere. This is the most I've ever felt like Raj. So to Roger Bry, this drink of coffee is for you, sir, and my Star Wars mug that a volunteer brought. Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to go get some stuff, and we'll go. We're doing some new things here at CTA this season. 51st season, Tell the Story is our theme for the 51st season. So I looked at that as an opportunity for us to tell a different story than the last 50 years here at Corinth Theater Arts. We'll talk about our history in just a minute. But as we go to a new road, I thought, if you've been a volunteer here and you've been able to walk through our back hallways and see the names on the wood and the brick throughout the building, you know how important it is for us as volunteers, as board members, as resident directors, to etch your name on our walls, to be a a part of who we are for a long time. I'm looking up at a piece of work that's a cardboard heart that's been hanging in one spot since 2000. And that's awesome. It's awesome that that's a thing. So this season, we started something really cool. We're doing these signs out in the yard. As a matter of fact, Daniel Inouye, who was resident director here for a couple of years, he had these great signs put on the side of the building to advertise what was going on this season. And while we're working on ways to use the actual building for that, I knew that it would be effective marketing tool to put what we're doing basically in a yard sign out in the yard. And so we started to do these really quite large, and it's reversed for you. So imagine this, but backwards. Yard signs that we've taken, and we'll take an extra one, and we'll get every member of our cast and production crew to sign them. So this is from our very first show this season, the 39 Steps. 4 of you saw it. Not really. More of you saw it than that. But one of the best shows that we've done in quite a while. It was the first true farce that we've done here at CTA in several seasons. And Clay S. Nels, Robin Plunk, Jacob Gilmore, and Blaine Teeters were superb in the 39 Steps. I wish we had a recording of it. Really great show. If you don't know anything about it, it's a farce based off the Hitchcock film. Really, really good stuff. So they technically get to be our very first group that we're going to put up somewhere. And I think I'm probably going to put it up here in the shop. I'll share these with you for every update that we do. These are really cool. I really like these. I'm patting myself on the back for having the idea. But at some point, we're going to run out of brick space. So for as long as we can, we want to take our really cool artwork that we have, along with our signatures from our amazing cast and crew, and put them up. Also, we're taking this season all of our marketing material, our print marketing material, our posters are square shaped. So we've asked the cast and crew to sign all of those, and at the end of the season, we'll put them up in the lobby as one big frame piece. So I'm really looking forward to that. Still Magnolias gets a couple extra ones. I think I know I had on the sign a couple of the sold out signs that we had for Still Magnolias that may go in the personal one that I have, but we'll see. So while the coronavirus has been kind of a jerk to us and slowed things down, we're lucky that it hit us at the right time, so as to not to greatly impact us the way it has impacted thousands of theaters around the country. So that's a cool thing that we're doing now. So be on the lookout for those the next time you're in the building. We're actually going to wait and put all those up between season 51 and season 52, which now, because of the coronavirus, may be kind of meshed. And I noticed that it looks like I'm wearing a dress and I'm not David Rose. I wish that I was, probably. Actually, my wife says that I think that I am. Okay, number 2. I'm going over this way. So a lot of my colleagues from around the country are doing some interesting things. And I was really lucky this past November to travel to Madison, Wisconsin, to meet with folks just like me, community theater directors from all over the country, for a couple of days to just talk about. Yeah, I know. I'm more a Rose. We've decided to talk about the state of the arts, the state of community theaters, theaters our size, theaters smaller, community theaters a whole lot larger than ours, and what we are doing to make things work. I'm really, really fortunate to have a really great mentor that was the resident director here at Corinth Theater Arts several years ago, who is now the executive director of the nation's largest community theater. It's a great job track. Maybe I'll take him up on that track one day. And he encouraged me to go to attend this conference for a couple of years, and so I finally did. We pulled the trigger on it, and I learned a lot. And it's connected me with a lot of other folks who are in the exact same boat that we're in. I've had friends who were a day before they were about to open a show the show got canceled, totally canceled. Like, no, the night before it opened, the final dress rehearsal just canceled because of the coronavirus. So I've had this great running dialogue with my peers all throughout the country for the past couple of weeks. And some of them are taking some video resources that they have and are converting them to digital use and putting them on their YouTube channels or on their Facebook pages and stuff like that. So I've got a couple of things that I would love to have converted, digitally converted, so that we can put them up. If you have that capability, I'm going to obviously ask around, but if you have that capability, I would absolutely love converted to a digital format. And the 2003 Magnolia Awards, that would be great. It's hilarious. Clay Nels, who's the president of our board of directors, I put him in stuff a lot. This is his first role. He was Macbeth in Macbeth. My God, how like, welcome to the theater, Clay Nels. You're Macbeth in Macbeth. So I would love for this to be converted to a digital format so that we can all see it. And I think that when we can, we'll put it on our YouTube channel. Katie Simons was the resident director here. And this is a fantastic show. This is a great production of William Shakespeare's Macbeth. So we'll get this on the internet somehow. Clay, it's happening whether you like it or not. And put it up for you. Again, one of the things that we're looking to do is to take and do some stage reading of shows. I've been conferring with folks who are like me all over the country, and they're finding ways to create content like this, and that's what we're going to do. My cast from Frozen Junior is working on this really great thing right now, where they are all singing Let It Go. And they're recording them, and we'll take all the videos and put them together and make this really cool promo for Frozen Junior. I'm telling you, this cast is so stupidly talented, you would not believe. I'm really looking forward to that. So we're looking for fun digital ways to connect with you. So hang in there with us while we do it. Nextly, we have in our archives, there's a bunch of archive stuff up there and in the additional office. We have occasionally people who send us stuff, and Kathy Niemeyer sent us this a couple of months ago. It was actually after our 50th season, but she sent us this package. It was really this nice little envelope. It was really nice, and I thought, I wonder what this is. So let me just read to you this note that Kathy sent and go through the stuff that we have. To CTA, happy 50th anniversary. It's fine. Enclosed, please find a few pieces of memorabilia. My mother, Jean Luden, and I were two of the original CTA members under the direction of Sylvia Beasley and then Ron Hamilton. Sylvia Beasley was the very first resident director here at CTA. That's pretty cool. Mother and I were on stage doing props, costumes, and makeup. Her biggest role was May in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Mom was a young girl, Gloria, in Wait Until Dark, starring Ann White. Miss Ann White, maybe one of CTA's most famous and legendary volunteers. Some of my best memories as a teen were time spent with the Little Theater group. It's really funny. There are a lot of people who still refer to CTA as the Little Theater. That's okay. The years Mother and I were involved were 1968 through 1972 plus. We performed in an old elementary school auditorium near Hillendale Country Club. Some performances were at my school, CHS, so the old junior high, where we did Physical Junior. My two young brothers, David and Chris Lydon, also performed in Oliver and the Nutcracker. I have very happy pictures in my mind working with the likes of Jim Bryant, Mr. Jimbo, Jim Feltman, Chiquita Wallace, Ann White, and of course my mother, Kathy Luden-Newmeyer. Really, really great stuff. This was a really nice surprise. Part of my job is to answer questions that people in our community and that random volunteers have about our organization and our building. A real part of my job is to write grants to pay for what we do here. We write one huge grant to the Mississippi Arts Commission every year, which tells an overall large story of what we do. I'm not just like a huge history guy, but I love the history of our theater. The brazenness of our founders to do new, um, exciting works right from the day that we opened and did our first show is just amazing. And it's the exact same brazenness and openness that we went into our 51st season with. Because I believe that's who we are. We are not a children's theater as much as I love students. We had a board member once that said a couple of years ago, I could just make this children's theater be great. Nope. I love you, students that are watching and will watch this. You're some of my favorite people to work with. But we are a community theater. We represent our entire community. We work our butts off to make sure that continues to happen. Kathy, if you end up seeing this, I received this and I just put it on my desk, and I held these things in my hand, and I thought, I don't really know what to do with them. I had like 4 or 5 Facebook posts written out for it, and I didn't know. And I said a couple of months ago, the right time will happen for these, and now's the time. So what she did was she enclosed playbills and clippings from the Daily Corinthian from CTA's very first season, and it's really kind of neat, because this here in my hand is the playbill for the very first production of our theater, the very first, and that to me that's really awesome. It's really awesome that I can hold this piece of history in my hand, and we spend X amount of dollars a year to print playbills that we give to you at the door, and you throw them away or take them with you or leave them in your seat or something like that. The folks who started Corinth Theater Arts had the foresight to think, I should keep this. And I'm telling you, this is in perfect condition. There's a little crease in it from where the envelope was folded. But to me, this is stupidly powerful. This is just, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take this and I'll make a digital copy of this, because one should exist. But let me read a couple things out of this to you. I think it's funny. First of all, our sponsors list was insane. Look at that, it's insane large. And our patrons, the folks who immediately supported what it was we were doing here in Corinth. Ace Power, Century Electric Company, that's interesting. Coke, the Daily Corinthian. I mean, really amazing things. And to me, when you look back on the special thanks, I know that when we do our playbills, the special thanks I oftentimes reserve for people who did things for us in a way that you would never see, that maybe donated furniture or gave us some extra money or did something, provided, I don't know, like in Still Magnolias. My good friend Tim Murphy was the voice of Chinkapin Parish's DJ, and he got a special thanks. Really interesting stuff. Ace Power, Channel 6, I guess that's the TV station out of Tupelo. Clement's Antiques, Coca-Cola Bottling Works, the Daily Corinthian Incorporated, East Corinth Elementary School, because that's where they perform this. Independent Services Corporation, King Stanley Corporation, Merle Norman Cosmetic Studio, who did all the makeup for The Egg and I, which was our very first show, Betty McDonald's The Egg and I. A couple of radio stations, and the University of Mississippi. We had a really great relationship with Ole Miss when we started, and if it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't exist. I thought this was really interesting. She also sent along this clipping from the Daily Corinthian of the original cast of The Egg and I, to start our 50th season and to kick off our second curtain series. We did a stage reading of The Egg and I. Pretty great. So she also sent a copy of Cinderella, the playbill from Cinderella. Oliver, And I I thought this was very timely, and it was actually one of the reasons that I chose this uh, production for this season was Summer and Smoke. We did Tennessee Williams Summer and Smoke on in our very first season. It was in the auditorium at Corinth High School. Um, really, really interesting that this was part of who we are. This has a special place for me because involved in this particular show as an actor, and I don't think he volunteered in any other way, but as an actor was a man by the name of Max Young. Max Young, who served here for a long time as a volunteer, was my very first stage manager in Bye Bye Birdie. If you've ever heard me tell the story about my very first experience, Max is the guy who didn't give me a choice and shoved me out on stage. I will forever be grateful to Max Young. Interesting stuff. If you have anything like this that you would love to send us, please do. I think actually this is the perfect format for this. So I'll get some photos of this stuff up and be happy to if you drop by the theater once we're all able to see each other in person, that'd be great. I'll be happy to show these things to you. Thank you, Kathy. Secondly, we're going to use our YouTube channel for a lot of fun stuff. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to talk about the history of theater. This is a textbook that goes through the history of theater. A lot of folks don't know why it is we do what we do. It didn't start with the ancient Romans and Greece. It started before that. And we're going to break through some of this in a separate channel on a separate series on our YouTube channel. So the history of theater, that's something to look forward to. Also, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to about what it is that we do in our upcoming season 52, is a separate Shakespeare tract. We're making our own Shakespeare club. We're going to put some volunteers together. We're going to select what it is we want to do and go from there. And we're going to work on this one piece all season long. It had been my original intent to go through Shakespeare sonnets and read them to you and kind of talk about them on these. And then Jean-Luc Picard himself, Sir Patrick Stewart, took it upon himself to do so. What are you going to do? He's the captain of the Starship Enterprise and maybe everyone's beloved grandpa. I'm not going to rival Sir Patrick Stewart. So what we're going to do is we'll start with number one. So if you read Shakespeare Sonnet number 1 and you read and know that Sonnet 1 through 126 is written to this young boy, scandalous that Shakespeare would have a love affair with a young man and be the theater god that he is. But know that that is who he focused the first 126 sonnets on. You know, it's a thing. So Sir Patrick Stewart and some other folks are reading them, but I'm hoping that we can take this as an opportunity to kind of go and preemptively start what it is we're going to do with our Shakespeare Club. So sonnet number 1, to give you an idea, the summary of what it is this: beauty that does not reproduce itself by producing offspring is both cruel and wasteful. Take pity on the world, or else be regarded by it as selfish. So while you folks are all locked up and there's a chance for offspring in creative ways and physical ways, think about that. We as artists, if we are not looking to reproduce what it is that we do via actual work, via work that lives on forever and ever and ever, then what's it for? Where's the beauty in what it is we're doing if we don't do it now? I really am looking forward to see what comes out of this time of social distancing in 10, 20 years. We'll never know. Until then, hopefully some amazing things are being written. Hopefully they're being written by you, and you're encouraging folks to do that. I think it's important that we take the time while we have it now to kind of slow down a little bit to go from there. And the last thing we'll get to in our in our going off book is a book today. Maybe the most notorious book in all of Corinth Theater Arts history, and that is the Critics' Choice Cookbook. A lot of people have heard about this cookbook, and we actually talked about it a bit in Still Magnolias, but it's one of those things where I thought this is a great opportunity to take what we have been given before us and give it to you. So I thought, why not? Why not pick something that would be socially relevant for all of us sitting at home right now, and use it as a kind of update every time we do this. So this is the Critics' Choice Cookbook. This actually was written by the Guild of Corinth Theater Arts, the Theater Guild. The Theater Guild no longer exists, but was a really great way for folks who are not interested in being on stage as volunteers or behind the scenes to go out and fundraise and do work for the theater. That was the purpose of the Theater Guild, was to go raise some funds so we can continue to do what we're doing. One of the very first ways they did that community-wide was Critics' Choice Cookbook. There are so many of these things, but not so much anymore. I mean, talk about that in a second. So the original cookbook committee was Mickey Hale, Mally Norwood, Corinne Pierce, Vicky Sweat, Ann White, and Beth Worcham. I love this thing. I think it's like the nostalgia factor for this is great. About a year ago, well, it wasn't at the last Christmas, the Christmas before then, Emily's boss, we went and picked up our dog that is now our dog in our house from their family as a Christmas gift to our family. And they were working on Christmas dinner from the Critics' Choice Cookbook. This thing is still alive and kicking, baby. So if you got one, you should hold on to it. I'll talk about a couple of copies in a second. So this thing is great, and there are a couple things about it that I want to read to you. First of all, this is in the Library of Congress. This work from people right here at Corinth Theater Arts is in the Library of Congress. Thank you, folks who came before us. So copyright. The proceeds from the sale of this book go to benefit community theater in Corinth, and in particular, children's theater, resident director, and improvements on the theater building. So buy this book and, help all of us and me do what we do. We still have some copies. Our compliments to the chef. Those who cared enough to share their tried and treasured recipes with us, and those who gave their time and talents writing, drawing, typing, proofing, and editing recipes that often said, "Just cook till done." Thank you. Because of you, we are the Critics' Choice. 2, we would also especially like to thank those members of the Theater Guild who worked long and tirelessly to raise money so that we could go to print, break a leg. So the great thing about this book is, although the cookbook committee put this together, it's not just a group of recipes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ladies. It's a whole lot more. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how it's broken down, and then I think I'm going to give you a COVID-19 Critics' Choice recipe of our going off book for you every single time, because this is awesome. This is my personal copy of this book, so it lives with us and is ours. But we have a couple of copies of this left, but I'm really happy to tell you that on my way home tonight, I'll be putting a copy of the Critics' Choice Cookbook in the little free library, number 87779. One of our great longtime volunteers, Tanya Freeman Maxinen, who was just Malin in Still Magnolias in the sold out last weekend of Still Magnolias, has this great little free library, and T will donate a copy of that to your little free library on our way home. So if you don't have a copy of this, pick it up from the little free library, share it, return it. Let's keep this going. This thing is great, and this is the only time we'll do this. Oh no, it's closed. Well, then I'll give a copy of it to Tanya. Thank you, dear. I'll give a copy of it to Tanya and she'll distribute it when it's time. So the forward of this was written by the resident director, Larry Cox, at the time. And this is what it says. Nobody knows exactly when theater began or when the magic of a theatrical occasion first created the urge to celebrate the accolades of a premiere performance with an opening night party. This guy's my dude. Theater perhaps began in the shadowy mists of prehistory when some band of hunters returned from an exciting and successful chase and recreated the event for the clan. He was pretty spot on. Perhaps they all dined on roasted mastodon as the hunters mimed the humorous or tragic adventures of the hunt, and the first dinner theater was born. We do know that mystery or religious plays were represented in Egypt 2000 BC, and no doubt the priest actors retired to eat roast duck and munch on date and honey cakes after a vivid impersonation of the gods. By the year 450 BC, the Greeks were presenting awards to such renowned playwrights as Euripides. One can imagine the playwright and his actors dining on gilded peacock and mutton and washing it all down with a good wine. Why would you not? The Romans did much the same with Meander and Plautus. History informs us that Nero relished writing and performing in his own plays, and that he did both rather badly. But we can be certain that every Roman worth his salt attended an opening night bacchanal at the imperial palace. With the coming of the Dark Ages, European theater was frowned upon except for clerical or nativity plays. There can be little doubt that the spectators took along food or bought vendors' fare as they watched some mortality play at the local cathedral square. The Italian Renaissance and the sudden burst of creative genius which came about in Elizabethan England, that word always gets me, brought theater back into favor for a while. Shakespeare and Marlowe were presenting plays for the court, and everyone feasted on venison, pheasant, and ale. Later in France, Moliere was writing scathing comedies, except for Tartuffe. We'll talk about that. I'm so sorry. Was writing scathing comedies and enjoying the cuisine, which has made his country world-renowned. With the Puritan Rebellion, theaters were closed in England and not reopened until 1660, when Ristorian drama arose and gave us the comedy of Congreve or the tragedy of Dryden. In Italy, there was the rise of opera as a form of theatrical expression. During the 18th and 19th centuries, theater was filled with the satire of Goldsmith or the melodrama of Hugo. In the latter part of the last and the early part of the 20th century, Ibsen, Shaw, Wilde brought naturalism or realism to the stages of Europe. That did not mean that the food and drink at dinner and theater parties had become drab. There is nothing drab about Sarah Bernhardt dining on coq au vin and champagne. The tradition has followed to the present time. That's so true. Whatever the play or the time, good theater has encouraged and enhanced good dining. They go together hand in glove. Theater has brought out the affability and camaraderie people feel when they have seen the curtain go down on a rewarding play. Invariably, audiences and casts gather in homes or restaurants to celebrate the finer things of life with a rich variety of food and drink. This collection of recipes has been aimed at providing a rich tapestry of possibilities of food and drink for you. We hope that the richness, flair, excitement, and pleasure of a theatrical and personal heritage will be reflected in your luncheons or dinner parties, and then you will have many encores with the recipes in this book. Larry Cox, resident director, CTA, 1985 through 1988. Yep, so it took a cookbook to finally get me a little teary-eyed. That's totally fine, because this is just personal to me, because every time you see a show here at CTA, you see hundreds of man hours from volunteers and folks alike, and this is thousands. This is thousands of man hours that stand the test of time. The thing I love a lot about my job is that I'm allowed to just be here in this building every day, so I can see Hank Worsham's name that he wrote on a wall in the 70s. It's amazing. The history that is a part of who we are. is one of the very oldest continually operating community theaters in Mississippi. It's awesome that we have these historical ties to tie back to. So this is broken down into this really cool table of contents. And so it starts with nutrition concepts. Nobody cared about nutrition in this cookbook, I promise. But they broke it down into these different categories with theatrical flair. Dramatic dining, which includes like this full course of food. It's awesome. Overtures and menus, which featured appetizers and beverages. Co-stars and menus, which are salads and salad dressings, sandwiches and soups. Center stage, which is meat, seafoods, and on the grill. Break a leg, poultry and game. Early reviews, eggs, pasta, cheese, like eggs and cheese. The understudy, vegetables. Personal offense to that. Vegetables are great. Supporting roles, breads. The finale, cookies, desserts, cakes, pies, and the epilogue, candies, pickles, and relishes. And as the theater always does, revivals. So heirloom recipes people have shared all along. I'm a huge Bob's Burgers fan. If you know me personally, like besides working here just as a volunteer, but know who I am in real life, I'm a huge Bob's Burgers fan, and I love to cook, which is why this is very special to me. But one of my favorite episodes of Bob's Burgers also involves food. And lo and behold, my favorite food thing from Bob's Burgers happens to have a recipe in the Critic's Choice Cookbook. And that is a Dutch baby. So I'm going to give you this recipe. We'll post this recipe on Instagram, our Facebook, stuff like that. And I totally encourage you to try it because I love a good Dutch baby. You may have never heard one. You may have had one at like a roadside diner in the Midwest or New England. Make this, do it, especially now. So a Dutch baby. You need 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 eggs, a pinch of salt, a half a cup of all-purpose flour, and a half a cup of milk. Here's the direction. This recipe was submitted by Mrs. Phil Nelson from Jackson, Mississippi. So like I said, people submitted recipes from all over for this thing. It's amazing. So preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Place butter in a 10.5-inch black skillet and heat butter in the oven. I use a cast iron. Cast iron's the way to go. Mix eggs, salt, flour, and milk. Pour melted hot butter into the egg mixture, then pour the mixture into the skillet. So you're mixing things. Bake at 400 for 15 to 20 minutes. And what it's going to do is do this awesome thing where like it's basically this pancake that comes up over your cast iron skillet. And it is amazing. If you're a Bob's Burgers fan, you'll know this episode, the Dutch baby episode. Do this. Go and do this. I'll finish the recipe and tell you a real good thing to do. Cut into wedges, sprinkle with powdered sugar, and serve with bacon or ham. Don't do that. It's a syrup optional. Excellent for breakfast. Children love this. Serves 4 to 6. One of the cool things that I did with not this recipe, but it's the right recipe, with the first time I ever made a Dutch baby, because I saw this episode of Bob's Burgers years ago. I was like, I got to do this. If you'll take some lemon juice and some lemon zest and zest it into some just regular granulated sugar and mix it all together and then put it over the top of that bad boy and let it melt. Oh, man, it's good. So a Dutch baby. Thank you, Mrs. Phil Henson Nelson from Jackson, Mississippi. So when the Little Free Library gets back up and going, there will be a copy of this. I have a couple copies of this because we're in this great, time of uncertainty. If you would like a copy of this, I'm happy to give you one for $20. We've got several of these left. And this was used to raise funds for who we are. So be happy to do that. So I'll figure out what our next one will be, and we'll go from there. So the beautiful thing about YouTube is that this is going to be here, so you can go back and watch it and look to what we talked about and go from there. Thank you guys so much for being amazing patrons, amazing friends, amazing volunteers. I'm standing in a building that has almost been ours for 50 years. knowing that there were troubling times and trying times before, um, and that this experience that we're going through now is not going to stop what it is we do. We owe it to art. We owe it to the 50 years before us to work hard through this time and finish out the season strong and come back even stronger in season 52. And we can only do it with support from folks like you. There's a donate page on every one of our shows on wheretheatercomesalive.com. If you have a couple extra bucks right now, send it our way. It'd be great. Other than that, thank you so much for hanging out. Keep a look on the YouTube channel. We'll start our Shakespearean breakdown and our the origin of theater in a couple of days. The first couple of episodes will be available there, and we'll go from there. If you have any suggestions, please send them our way on our social media, and we'll take those. Be on the lookout for some folks to join us, hopefully pretty soon, in our Going Off book. And we'll see you soon where theater comes alive. Bye-bye. Yes, we're on in the stream.